What up, boxing fans, and welcome to the Saved by the Bell podcast with my co-host H and myself, Dark Side of the Moon. Please check out our socials down below. In today's topics, we're going to be talking about Chris Billum-Smith versus Zurdo Ramirez, Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano, the rematch, and Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. But before we get into any of that, how are you doing, H, and are you excited for tonight's fights?
Thank you for asking me how I'm doing. I'm doing great. You know what? It's been such a long time waiting, Ross. It's been such a long time, and it's finally here. The time is here. There's no more talking. There's no more drama. No more hoo-ha. No more rah-rah. It's time. The time is here. But I want to ask you the same thing. How are you feeling, Ross?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Like you said, we've been looking forward to this night for some time. There's a lot of controversy surrounding the fight because of Mike's age and Jake's age, but I think everyone can admit that we're all going to enjoy it.
You know this. Dark Side of the Moon, the co-main event. But in my eyes, this is the main event attraction. In my eyes, this is the fight that I've been waiting to see for so long. The rematch. Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano. The rematch. Ross, quickly, what's your thoughts on this?
My thoughts on this is it's a fantastic time for boxing. We had one of the greatest fights. Forget that it was women's boxing. We had one of the greatest fights, period, in boxing when we saw Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano the first time. If I'm being honest, I thought it should have probably been a draw in the first fight. But hey, we're getting the rematch now, and I am super excited for this fight. I'm not exactly sure who I've got my money on, but I am leaning slightly towards Amanda Serrano. I did actually predict that she was going to win in the first fight, and I believe that she probably will win in the second fight. This is based off Katie Taylor. You know, her style is very in and out, and it requires youth, really. And as we know, Katie Taylor is getting on a little bit in her career now. I'm not saying she can't put out a fantastic performance and shock everyone like she did with the rematch of Chantel Cameron, but I just believe that Amanda almost had her in the first fight, and I think Amanda will get her in this second fight.
Amanda Serrano, there's no introduction needed. 7 division world champion, currently holds the WBO, IBO, and WBA world titles. Listen, Amanda Serrano, there's no introduction needed. The first fight, I agree, it should have been a draw. The fight between Kate, it was so close. The fight was so close. It should have been a draw. But somehow the judges thought that Katie Taylor outperformed Amanda Serrano, which is very, very hard to see. But either way, both women, they made history. It was the first time that a women's boxing match was held, headlined Madison Square Garden. Both females got paid $1 million each for the first fight. They've made history already. Their names are in the Guinness World Record of Books. You know what I mean? And now we're getting the rematch. Oh, bruv. This is going to be... I'm excited, This is going to be fireworks, electric. This is going to be so much excitement in this fight. And I believe Amanda Serrano will stop Katie Taylor in this rematch. Yeah. I believe she's coming for redemption. I believe she feels that she got wronged in the first fight. So I feel like she's going to come in the second fight with her game stepped up. And like you mentioned a very good point. Katie Taylor, she's 38 years old. Her style suits a younger fighter. And as she's getting older, the style no longer keeps up with her age. Because as you know, the older you get, the less speed you have, the less agility. You know what I mean? You slow down naturally. We're humans. We're not robots. And is Amanda Serrano going to take advantage of this? Only time will tell. But listen, I'm excited. Netflix, listen, just think about it for what these two have accomplished for women's boxing. The first time that a women's boxing match was headlined at Madison Square Garden, that's one in the history books. Number two, The first time two females are fighting live on the biggest streaming platform in the world, Netflix. They've broken another record. Again, you know what I mean, Darkside?
The women are breaking down these barriers and creating new records all the time, and I'm all for it.
That's what I'm saying. And they're getting paid $6 million each. That's crazy amounts of. Listen, I don't think there's been a time in history where any female fighter has got paid this amount or even close to this amount.
It's unheard of.
It's unheard of. And right now, I would say this is the highest point for women's boxing. It's at the highest right now.
Absolutely. It's at the pinnacle. It's at the peak right now. Women's boxing is really taking off. It's not quite as popular in the States as it is in the UK, but that's only a matter of time until it becomes mainstream like it is over here in the UK.
That's so true. All right, Ross, let's wrap this one up. You know what I'm going to ask you next.
Prediction time.
I want to hear drum roll. I want to hear your final prediction for Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano, the rematch.
My final prediction for Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano. I believe Serrano will probably get to Katie Taylor mid to late rounds, somewhere through 6 through 9. I believe she will hit her with some good shots, have Katie Taylor on Bambi legs, and she will get her out of there this time.
Okay. I'm gonna give you a bold prediction. Are you ready for it, Ross?
I like a bold prediction.
Amanda Serrano knocks out TKO's Katie Taylor round 7. Bosh. How about
round
that?
7 TKO.
Round 7 TKO KO. The fight is coming to a stop. Amanda Serrano will be the winner of that fight.
Sounds like a great prediction, man. Now we all have to wait and see what's really going to happen in the fight. It's definitely going to be an interesting one.
Aye, and guess who else will be attending this fight?
Who's that?
Sky Nicholson. You know Sky Nicholson. She's been saying Amanda Serrano's been ducking her. Amanda Serrano is scared of her. Amanda Serrano don't want to fight her. Well, let's see the outcome of this fight. If Amanda Serrano wins, I guarantee you will see a face-off between Sky Nicholson and Amanda Serrano, and that fight will be made next if Amanda Serrano wins. But hey, it's exciting time for women's boxing. Let's keep the show rolling. Bosh. So, Darkside, let me ask you. We might as well talk about the main event first. Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul, or Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. However, which way it is. I want to know your initial thoughts on this fight.
My initial thoughts are, if I'm being honest, I don't think the fight should really be happening. Based on the age difference between the two fighters, Jake Paul being a young and fresh fighter in the prime of his career, and Mike Tyson being an absolute legend, one of the greatest fighters in boxing of all time, but is now approaching 60 years old. So my thoughts on the fight are, it will be an interesting fight to see if Mike has still got his natural abilities, which I believe he will, but we'll also have to find out, is Jake able to take a shot from Mike? And then that is going to be the interesting thing.
I mean, that's very true, but you have to understand, Jake Paul is Mike Tyson's. He's got 30 years his junior. 30 years his junior. So the punch resistant, agility, power, speed, it's all in Jake Paul's favor.
That's true.
So I feel like if Mike Tyson does hit Jake Paul has a higher chance of being able to absorb the punches because of his youth. It's only natural. Now, whereas Jake Paul, if he lands a shot on Tyson, can Tyson still take those sort of bangs at the age that he's at, 58 years old? Let's not lie to ourselves. He's old. And especially for the sport of boxing, 58, that's very old.
True.
You know what I mean? So, listen, I'm excited for it. Like you said, I don't want to see this fight. When I first heard it, I didn't want to see it. Now that it's happening, you know what? I'm on the train as well. I'm
Yeah,
on
I
the
want.
I'm on the Polo Express. I'm with everyone. I'm here now. We can't stop this train. The train is going to its destination. We can't stop it. So now we just gotta wait for the showdown later on tonight.
Absolutely, absolutely. I would say on Jake's side that I do believe that Jake Paul has improved as a boxer
Mm.
from when he was first having those fights a long time ago with KSI, having those amateur type fights. He has
Yeah.
come away. He has got natural ability. But the difference is Mike Tyson's been boxing his whole life, whereas Jake Paul has
Mm.
been boxing for about 5 years. So we're going to really find out if someone who's youthful and who's been in boxing for 5 or so years is really able to go to toe with a legend and a great in someone like Mike Tyson, who's been boxing all his life. And that is going to be interesting to see.
I agree with you. Mike Tyson said himself, Jake Paul is a manufactured killer. I am a natural born killer. That's the words that came out of Mike Tyson. And you know
God.
what? He hit the nail on the head. That is what it is. Jake Paul has been tuned. He's been programmed to become this killer. Well, Mike Tyson is a natural born killer. You know what I mean? But end of the day, it's still a big age difference. I've seen a lot of clips of Mike Tyson. His training, he still looks like a beast. Let's be real. He looks like an absolute beast. I mean, it's crazy. I don't. Let's talk about the rules of this fight. Some of the rules. Well, they're going to be fighting in 14-ounce gloves. So a natural heavyweight fight is 10-ounce gloves. So
Right.
you've got some sort of cushion there. I've heard that Mike Tyson is not allowed to knock down or knock out Jake Paul. There's no head guards. There will be no head guards. It's going to be 8 rounds, 8 2-minute rounds instead of the 12 3-minute rounds. I mean, what's your thoughts on this, Ross?
My thoughts are personally, I think that the minutes and the rounds do favor Mike Tyson because, as you will know, the older you get, the quicker your stamina goes away from you. And that also goes on to punch resistance as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how Mike Tyson deals with those rounds. But I do believe that that gives a small advantage in a sense to Mike Tyson, being as he'll be more able to last for the 2 minutes. Whereas Jake somewhat also has the advantage because he's able to do the 2 minutes or the 3-minute rounds. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the fight unfolds. And I won't give you my prediction just at the minute, but I do think it's going to be an interesting scrap.
Aye. Jake Paul has said many times he wants to become a legitimate world champion. I mean, he started his career back in 2018 against Deji, KSI's brother. And from then to now, we've seen a big improvement. Let's be real. There's been a big improvement in his skill set and his stamina, in his in Jake Paul as a whole. Let me ask you: do you see Jake Paul being world champion? Do you see him grabbing any of the 4 belts, whether it's the IBF, IBO, WBC, WBA? Do you see him becoming a legitimate world champion in boxing?
That's an interesting question. I do actually believe that Jake Paul has zero chance of becoming a world champion. And the reason I believe that is because if you look at the people that Jake Paul has actually fought so far in his career, none of them are actually professional boxers. And the only one that was a true professional boxer who was still fairly early in his career is that of Tommy Fury. And
Actually, no, he did fight 2 other pro boxers, but they was fairly unknown. It was Andre August and Ryan Berland. It was, but they are very unknown, so I don't even blame you if you forgot about them. But yeah, sorry, Ross.
Yeah,
Sorry, carry on.
to be honest, fair play. I did actually forget about those 2 fighters there. But what I would say is Jake doesn't have much experience fighting, decent professional ranked boxers.
Yeah.
Let's look at some of those who are the world champions right now. Funnily enough, one of those, in fact, 2 of those are fighting this Saturday in
Yes.
Zurdo Ramirez and Chris Billum Smith. Do
Oh
I
yeah.
think Jake could beat a Zurdo Ramirez or a Chris Billum Smith? Absolutely not. And
No
he's got
way.
even less chance against someone like a Jai Opetaia, who I believe is the most dangerous in the cruiserweight division.
Yes,
So, in answer
yes.
to that question, I don't believe he'll become a world champion. Do I believe that Jake Paul can become a decent boxer if he transitions completely into professional boxing? I would say yes. And the reason behind that is I think he's got youth on his side, and I do feel he has got some natural boxing ability of his own. And I believe that there are handfuls of people who Jake Paul could probably beat in the professional ranks.
It's true. It's very true. I mean, listen, think about it. Um, Jake Paul has brought a lot of light to the boxing world. He's
He
brought
has.
he's brought his own fan base, which is YouTube, influencing, Vine, all that sort of stuff, and he's brought it into boxing. So overall, if we're looking at it from a business point, yeah, Jake Paul is good for boxing. It's good for business. I mean, just look at what's happening right now. Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. Who would have thought 5 years ago this fight would take place? A YouTuber versus the legend Mike Tyson. It's impossible. If you told me this 5 years ago, I would have laughed. I said, "Get out of it, bro. What are you smoking on?" But now we're here, and it's all because of who? Jake Paul.
Jake Paul.
Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? I mean, think about it. He's made more money than a lot of professional boxers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not men lied, women lied, numbers don't. He is on
Yeah.
2022 Forbes list for the highest, for one of the highest paid athletes. Now, I'm not sure, I can't really remember what number he ranked, but it was only a few spots below Canelo and AJ. And
That's
that's
shocking. That
that's
is
crazy.
crazy.
Imagine that. Imagine making the same, or almost the same amount of money as the face of boxing, Canelo or AJ. I mean, listen, why not get paid more than
Yeah.
professional boxers and fight people like Nate Diaz, Tyron Woodley, Anderson Silva?
Smart business.
Do you know what I mean? Tommy Fury. I mean, let's think about it. All the opponents that Jake Paul has fought, where are they right now? That's the only question I've got to ask you. Where are they right now? They're all irrelevant.
Yep. Not being talked about.
And Jake Paul is still being relevant. He's still being talked about till this day. And um, this is his biggest fight yet.
Definitely.
Even if it's a 58-year-old Mike Tyson, this is his biggest fight yet. I mean, just look
Yeah.
at the stadium. Dallas, I'm sure it's Dallas Stadium. It's the biggest NFL stadium in America,
Wow.
and it's
I
sold
didn't
out.
know that.
And it's sold out.
Jeez.
First time. This is the first time that Netflix is doing a live streaming an event. And guess who's a part of it? Guess who made it happen? Jake Paul. So we got
Yeah.
to put some respect on Jake Paul's name. But as far as him becoming a world champion, I agree with you. I don't really see him becoming a world champion because especially the division that he's in, the cruiserweight division, there's some absolute killers in the
Yeah.
cruiserweight division. And if Jake Paul was to go against them, he will get crucified. Let's just keep it
Yeah.
at that.
I agree.
Do you know what I mean? I know you said you're not going to give a prediction. But I am going to ask you this question. Dark Side of the Moon, talk to me. Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. What's your predictions? What's your final predictions? Break it down for me.
My final prediction is the one that everyone wants to hear. We're all hoping for this. I'm hoping Mike Tyson wins by stoppage. That's what I think is going to happen. That's what I want to happen. And God only knows. Let's hope it will happen.
Damn. You know what? I don't know. It's a hard one because I can make as many predictions as I want right now, but I won't know, or I won't know until that bell rings. And a lot of people are saying, hey, this fight is staged. If Mike Tyson loses, this is staged. But we won't know until the first bell rings, round one, ding, 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 ding. And we'll see what's happening then. Do you know what I mean? But
Absolutely.
as far as right now, I gotta give you a prediction, man. I have to because it's only right. You gave me one.
Want to hear your prediction? I'm interested for this one.
I'm calling it a draw.
A draw.
A draw.
Controversial draw.
I'm
That
calling
is fun.
it. I'm calling it a draw because think about it. Let me just give you one point why I'm calling it a draw. Yeah. All right, cool. From Jake's Paul, because Jake Paul is a businessman, right? Jake Paul, he's smart. He's not stupid. He's smart. So watch this. So Jake Paul, yeah, if he beats Mike Tyson, the legendary, Jake Paul will be the most hated man on this planet.
Definitely.
If he loses to Jake Paul, if he loses to Mike Tyson, he'll be the laughing stock in the whole world.
Yeah.
If the fight is a draw, it's like, you know what? Jake Paul put up a good fight. Wow, Mike Tyson's a legend. Look what he did at 58. Do you know what I mean? So what's the best option? Jake Paul beating Mike Tyson, Jake Paul losing to Mike Tyson, or a draw? And Jake Paul, remember, this is business. Jake Paul's a businessman. So is Mike Tyson. So I feel like a draw. If this fight is staged, it will be a draw.
That's a very interesting prediction. And a draw opens up a possibility for another fight, which makes more money for Jake Paul and more money for Mike Tyson. So it's a win-win for everyone. And, you know, that's the only probability I didn't think of happening because, as you'll know, draws are fairly rare to happen in boxing. But I could see that happening, especially as, you know, there's a lot of sort of conspiracy around the fact that it's a Jake Paul promotion. We don't really know whether it's a legitimate 100% legitimate fight or is it scripted. But I guess we're going to have to wait and see, and we'll find out later tonight.
Aye, and that's all on that. Bosh. Yo, Dark Side. Listen, we know we've got Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul, Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor happening over there. But let's bring it back over here. Hometown, Chris Smith versus Gilberto Ramirez. WBO belt, WBA belt are on the line. World Cruiserweight titles are on the line. Ross, quickly, tell me what's your initial thoughts on this fight?
My initial thoughts on this fight is it's definitely an intriguing competition between the two lads. Both guys who I consider to be fairly highly skilled in the boxing world. You've got Chris Smith. He's one of our own. You know, he's got a lot of heart. He's got that warrior spirit, and he definitely know how to land a decent shot. On the other hand, you've got Gilberto Ramirez, who's far more experienced in his professional bouts that he's been involved in. He also holds a lot of power. He's a southpaw and a very technical boxer, so it's going to be an intriguing event. However, the winner of this unification fight will then go on to fight Jai Opetaia, who's one of the other current world champions at the moment, and that's going to be an explosive event. But for now, we've got to focus on Chris Smith and Zordo Ramirez.
Listen, it's an exciting fight. Is it a big step? Is it fair to say this is a big step up for Chris Smith? Is that a fair statement to make, Dark Side?
I would say that's a fair statement based on the fact that Chris Smith has only really been in with one sort of world champion, and that was Lawrence Okoli, who, in my personal opinion, I don't rate and have never rated that highly. He's a decent boxer, and he holds power. I'll give him that. But when he fights someone with a bit more technical ability, he becomes unstuck. And I think Chris Smith showed that in his fight against Lawrence Okoli.
Yeah, most definitely. I agree. I mean, listen, let's just compare the CVs. Let's just compare both fighters' CVs, Chris's CV and Gilberto's CV. If we look at CVs, of course, Gilberto's CV is looking awesome. 46 wins, 30 coming via KO. I mean, he's got more knockouts than Chris has fights.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So this is why I said this is a big step up. Even from Chris's trainer, Shane. Shane told Gilberto, hey, put some respect on us. Well, not word for word, but basically put some respect on us. Don't look past us. Do not look past us as a team. Do not look past Chris as a fighter, because you don't just become a world champion and you don't just defend that belt if you're just an average Joe. You have to be something special. So I feel like Shane is letting Gilberto know, listen, your record may look better than ours, but don't for a second think that it's going to be a walk in the park. Don't for a second think you're going to walk over us as a team and as a fighter for Chris. What do you reckon of that statement that Shane made, Ross?
I think that's a very valid statement. I do believe that Chris Billam-Smith has been in some very, very tough fights, which will show you that he has got that heart, he's got that will and determination, and that he's not just going to roll over and get beaten easily. It's going to take someone to really pick him apart, I believe, and really hurt him to take him out. Without that, it's going to be one hell of a slugfest all the way through 12 rounds. And I can say looking forward to this.
Listen, I expect this fight to be tough and rough. Listen, you know these guys that come from Mexico, they're rough and tough. Gilberto coming from Sinaloa, Mexico. These guys are as tough as they come. Let's be real. Now, let me mention one thing and tell me if you agree with me or if you don't. The winner of this fight, whether it's Chris, whether it's Gilberto, does the winner of that fight go and face Jai Opetaia? Is it mandatory that the next opponent after this fight is Jai Opetaia? Talk to me.
My thoughts on that would depend on the result of the fight between Chris Billam-Smith and Zurdo Ramirez. I think if it's a close fight, they may have a rematch, and that would be warranted in a close fight. However, if it's a one-sided beatdown by either side, then it doesn't warrant a rematch, and they should fight Jai Opetaia, whoever the winner is.
I mean, listen, Jai Opetaia has been calling out for Chris Billam-Smith. He said, "Don't run away from me. Don't be hiding from me. I'm coming for you, Chris." I mean, and that's before this fight was even confirmed between Chris and Gilberto. So we know Jai Opetaia's intentions. So Jai Opetaia is going to be keeping a very close eye on this fight. I mean, we all know Jai wants to be undisputed cruiserweight. We all know this. So if that's his goals and that's his intentions, then best believe Jai Opetaia is going to be glued to his screen for this fight here. But anyways, let me cut this and wrap this up. Dark Side, you know what I'm about to ask you.
It's that time again.
It's that time again. Drum roll. Dark Side, what's your final predictions?
My final prediction on this fight is I believe, sadly, Gilberto Ramirez will get the victory. You know, we always want to back our own. And this may be somewhat of a controversial statement, but I do believe that Gilberto Ramirez, with the experience that he's gained and the hard fights that he's been in, the fact that he's a southpaw, which is going to make it somewhat more tricky, and the fact that he also holds power, I believe this could be the undoing of Chris Billam-Smith. And I'm going to go, if I have to give you only one solid prediction, I'm going to go for a late round stoppage by Zurdo Ramirez. I can't pick an exact round, but I would say anywhere from 9 through 12, we might see a stoppage.
Damn. You know what? I always go with the Brit. I have to. You know what I mean? It's my... you know what? Not always, but most of the times I go with the Brit. But without being biased. But with this one, I don't know. With this one, like you said, you laid it out perfectly. Gilberto's resume, Gilberto's experience, it's just much better than Chris's. This is the first time I feel like Chris will be really and truly tested in his professional boxing career. This is the first fight that is going to be really and truly rough and tough. It really and truly is going to push him to the maximum limit. Now, my thing is, does Chris Billam-Smith have the dog in him? Does Chris Billam-Smith have that desire, have that hunger to go toe-to-toe with a Mexican fighter? And you know these Mexicans, they come rough as nails. They come rough, bro. So my thing is, does Chris have that in him? And we will find out from the first round. As soon as it goes ding, 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 we'll find out what's going down. But if I'm going to give you a prediction right now...
this is what we want to hear.
Like I said, I don't want to go against the Brit. I always pick the Brit. But in this scenario and this situation, I'm going to pick Gilberto. And I believe Gilberto is going to TKO knock out Chris Billam-Smith I'm thinking round 8 to 11. Round 8 to 11, I feel like Gilberto will take out Chris Smith. That's my prediction on this fight here. I don't want to go against Chris. I want to pick Chris, but if we're gonna base this on skill set, experience, resumes, shit, it's not rocket science. It's all on paper. You know what I mean? So that's my prediction for this fight here, bro.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. Have you got anything else that you would like to add?
Listen, I want to add one more thing. I want to add, if Chris beats Gilberto, there's no more ducking and diving. He has to face Jai Pattaya next. If Chris beats Gilberto, he has to go and face Jai Pattaya next if he beats Gilberto. Because listen, it's about time there's an undisputed cruiserweight champion. It's about time. I mean, after Usyk, it's about time there's another undisputed cruiserweight champion.
Absolutely.
So that's my last point on that. What about you? Have you got any last points to make?
My last point that I would say is that, like, going back onto the point that you said, we're going to really find out how tough Chris Smith is, because he has always showed he's got heart and he showed that he's tough. But the problem, I feel, is going to be to do with durability. Is he going to be able to take all these shots and still come back firing? And that is the interesting question that we're going to have.
Like you said, based on the outcome of this fight, it's going to determine how much respect we put on either Gilberto or either Chris. Just depends on how the fight goes. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, that's that.
Okay, we're wrapping it up. Thank you, everyone, for watching this episode of Saved by the Bell. Stay tuned for the next episode.
Yes.
Peace.
Bosh.